Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something massive. A truly dramatic, sensory story of human endurance. We are talking about the millions of people who risked absolutely everything to build modern America. It's known as the Great Wave. And look, this isn't just some dusty collection of historical facts. This is literally the blueprint of the nation. It's this profound narrative of ambition, survival, and just total transformation. To really get our heads around this historical moment, we've got to look way past the dry statistics. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. Imagine what it would actually take to just abandon your home, your family, the language you grew up speaking, everything you have ever known. Imagine packing whatever you can physically carry and stepping out into the absolute unknown. Honestly, it's a leap of faith that's almost impossible for us to fully comprehend today.
Seriously, ask yourself, would you do it? Would you board a crowded, creaking ship and sail across the vast, completely unpredictable Atlantic Ocean with absolutely zero guarantee of success? Well, during the second half of the 19th century, millions of people made exactly that terrifying, life-altering choice. They were fleeing crushing poverty, famine, war, political oppression, and they arrived at the docks carrying little more than just a desperate hope for a better tomorrow.
Chapter 1. The Push and the Pull. Okay, so back in the mid-1800s, you basically had two massive, unstoppable forces colliding. First, you had the push. We're talking severe economic hardship, devastating agricultural famines, and violent political instability all across Europe. These things were actively driving families out of their ancestral homes. It was simple. Survival meant leaving. But then you had the pull. Over in America, the Industrial Revolution was booming at a scale that was just unprecedented. Factories were popping up practically overnight, huge railroad networks were stretching aggressively out toward the West, and the demand for raw human labor was completely insatiable. So for countless families facing total ruin at home, America became the ultimate symbol of survival and opportunity.
Chapter 2. Crossing the Atlantic. Now the journey itself? It was a grueling, agonizing passage that tested their resolve long before they ever caught a glimpse of the American coastline. Most travelers spent weeks confined to the belly of these steamships in a section you've probably heard of, steerage. It was the absolute cheapest ticket available, and man, it was notoriously, intensely crowded down there. The noise of the massive ship engines was deafening, the air was just completely stagnant, and the sanitary conditions, dangerously inadequate. Because of this dark, cramped environment, brutal diseases like cholera and typhus spread like wildfire among the exhausted passengers. It was the ultimate test of both physical and mental endurance.
Yet, despite the darkness, despite the deafening noise, despite the very real mortal danger of crossing an ocean, they just kept coming in staggering numbers. The mere possibility of a fresh start, like a true chance to start over and build a future for their kids, made this totally harrowing journey completely worthwhile to them.
Chapter 3. Arriving in the New World.
So, after weeks at sea, you finally see New York Harbor. You can imagine the complex, overwhelming mix of immense relief and intense anxiety they felt. But the second they stepped off those boats, this daunting processing gauntlet began. Exhausted families faced hours of anxious waiting in massive, echoey halls just for their initial inspection. Then came the medical examinations, invasive, rapid-fire checks where doctors were scanning for any sign of infectious disease or physical weakness. And finally, they had to sit through intense interrogations by immigration officials who were reviewing their documents, checking their backgrounds, and bluntly assessing their ability to work. Now, while the vast majority were eventually approved and allowed to finally begin their new lives, we do have to acknowledge a truly heartbreaking reality here. For some, the dream ended before it even began. A failed medical exam or a rejected document meant being turned away right at the gates. Think about that. It meant turning right around, reboarding a ship, and facing that grueling ocean crossing all over again. Forced back to the very hardships they had literally sacrificed everything to escape.
Chapter 4. Building an Industrial Giant.
Okay, so for the millions who did make it through those gates, they literally hit the ground running. They immediately became the beating heart of the American economy. These newcomers poured their relentless energy into the defining industries of the modern era. We're talking enduring the blinding, sweltering heat of the great steel mills, descending hundreds of feet into dangerous, suffocating coal mines, manning the deafening, fast-paced assembly lines of urban factories. And they quite literally laid the heavy iron tracks for the massive railroad networks that span the entire continent. They were the ones driving the nation's rapid expansion.
And as they poured their sweat and labor into these industries, the entire geographic and cultural landscape of the country shifted dramatically. Cities like New York, Chicago, Boston, and Philadelphia absolutely exploded in size and density. Entire neighborhoods transformed into tight-knit immigrant communities, just bursting with new life. They enriched American society with this vibrant cacophony of entirely new languages, the amazing aromas of new foods, and the foundations of brand new traditions. They were the primary catalyst in transforming the United States into an unstoppable industrial powerhouse.
Chapter 5: Hardships and Discrimination.
But listen, this incredible contribution didn't exactly shield them from some pretty immense struggles. They faced a harsh, unforgiving reality in their new home. There was deep-seated prejudice and discrimination from locals who were terrified the newcomers would take their jobs or irreversibly change traditional ways of life. Add to that extremely dangerous working conditions, exhaustingly long 14-hour workdays, and painfully low wages, all while living in cramped, overcrowded tenement buildings. Yet, despite these towering obstacles, their response was simple and unshakable: perseverance. Their sheer determination forged a foundation of lasting opportunity for every single generation that followed them.
Chapter 6: A Nation Changed Forever.
Looking at the big picture, from the moment the Great Wave rapidly accelerated around 1851, fueled by those early industrial demands, right through to the dawn of 1900, the trajectory of the country was permanently altered. Over just a half-century, their sustained labor, their highly innovative ideas, and their remarkably resilient communities fundamentally transformed the United States into one of the world's most diverse, dominant industrial empires.
The sheer scale of this movement is just staggering. We are talking about millions of people crossing a dangerous ocean just for a promise. And their legacy isn't trapped in the pages of some history book. We experience it every single day. The impact of these newcomers is woven right into the very fabric of modern America. It's in the diverse foods we eat, the music we listen to, the towering skylines of our cities, and the very foundations of our modern economy.
Today, millions of Americans can trace their family histories directly back to this great wave. It serves as this incredibly powerful reminder. The story of American immigration is, at its absolute core, a story of profound human courage. It's the story of leaving behind familiar lives to face a completely uncertain future, enduring unimaginable hardships, and in the process, building one of the most powerful nations in history.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. Look around your city, your workplace, or even your own family tree, and ask yourself, how does the incredible courage and resilience of those early arrivals continue to shape the world you live in right now? Thank you so much for exploring this journey with me.